Peace, infinite waters, diving deep once again. We have a very special guest. We have Max Igan. Max Igan is a researcher, truth seeker, radio host, filmmaker, and one of the pioneers of the global awakening movement. He lives in Queensland, Australia. All his amazing work can be found at www.thecrowhouse.com. His recent documentary, Transformation, takes a look at how we can regain our freedom on the planet. And his YouTube is The Crow House. Thanks for joining us, Max.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking me on, Ralph.
Well, I listen to your podcasts on YouTube, and it's as if you're talking through me. It's fantastic because I say being free is your birthright. And when I hear you speak, it's all about solutions. It's all about human empowerment. And how did your own awakening come about that being free is your birthright?
Well, I've always really been awake. I never really fitted into the system through my whole life. Ever since I was like 4 years old, I knew there was something terribly wrong. And so I became a musician so I could live on the outside of society through most of my life. And then it got to a point where I started to see a lot of really bad stuff going on right in front of my eyes. And I thought, well, rather than sort of living on the outside, I need to participate in trying to wake up other people. So that's basically why I do what I do. I think that we're at a very pivotal point in human history at the moment. I think we're at the point where human consciousness is being presented with the whole system right before our eyes. It's being laid bare for us all, and we've been given a choice which way to go. And I think that there's certain people that are here to help perhaps steer people in the correct direction and provide a perspective for people that will lead to empowerment. I think that's what this time is. I think really, when you look at the terrible state of the world, and it's in a pretty bad state at the moment, I think what it is the best opportunity we've ever had for freedom. And I think that's what we're being given. That's why I do what I do. I think that's why you do what you do. I think that's why we're seeing so many people that are awake and are speaking out about this situation at the moment, because it's simply that time in history. And you wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you weren't awake. And essentially, I think you were born awake. You were born so that you would be susceptible or open to this information, because a lot of people aren't, but there are certain people that are open to it. And yeah, that's what this time is. And yeah, I've always been that way, brother. It's just the way it is.
Right.
I was here to do exactly what I do, the same as all of those that are doing it.
Well, you're definitely doing it, and you're reaching such a large audience. And I feel we're living in amazing times. We talk of the life we are meant to live, and many of the masses out there are just simply unaware. We feel we have to go through what I call the conveyor belt lifestyle, which is just wake up, go to work, come home. And how do we break this unawareness? How do people become awake? Because it's very difficult. We can't judge people because they are just doing what they know.
Well, they are. They're doing what they know. They're doing what they're trained to do. That's the thing. I mean, so you can't judge people, but what we've got to do is just sort of show people that there's a better way. I mean, I think that we've always been a very, very full and very vibrant, very creative species. And it's only in the last couple of 100 years that it's really got to this point that we're becoming virtually roboticized. And because it's happening to such an exponential curve, like if you would, since the Industrial Revolution, it's really, really progressed. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but since the Industrial Revolution, the exponential curve of human control has really progressed to the point that I think it's been a little bit too fast. I think they've overstepped their mark a little bit. And I think the more oppressive they make it, the more in your face it is, and the more people wake up. And I think that's what's happening. I think because there's people like you and I doing what we're doing, and there's all of these internet radio shows and there's filmmakers, there's a lot of people speaking out about the control grid now. I think the controllers are getting very scared, and they're stepping up the pace, and they're stumbling, and they're making it a little bit too obvious. And so more and more people are waking up. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more they try to lock humankind down, well, we're just not going to be locked down. We're too creative for that.
Right.
The more
right.
they attempt to lock us down, the more obvious it becomes. And so what you and I would be talking about now would be seen as conspiracy theory 10 or 20 years ago. Now it's quite obvious to people. And so the more they try to do it, the more people wake up and the harder their job becomes. So, I mean, really what they're doing, as I said before, it's a gift. It's the best opportunity we've ever had. All of the totalitarian state that they're attempting to lock us into really is a gift, because they're scared. And when you're scared, you make mistakes and things become obvious. And that's exactly what's happening.
Right, because when I'm listening to you, it's all about internalizing your power, which is fantastic, because we know the fear is what keeps people externalizing their power. A bomb here, terrorists. And it's just amazing once you let go of that fear. But it's all about the power within. And a lot of people say, well, I'm only one person. What can I do? How can we help change the world individually from your own perspective?
Well, you know, it's helping understand who and what you are. I mean, all the problems that we face, these are all being done by people. That's what all of us are. We're just people. All of the machine, it's just people running it. People think government is this big monster that's going to come and eat them. You know, it's like a big machine marching down the street that's going to come and eat your house if you don't pay your rates, you know. But it's not like that. It's just an idea that exists on paper. People wrote it down in a book, all these ideas. They're just people. It's all just people. Everything that's going on is just people. See, my radio show that is called Surviving the Matrix, because really what we're in is a matrix. It's a paper-based matrix. It only exists on paper. Government only exists on paper. All the laws and all the regulations, they only exist on paper. They say, look, I made this idea up and I wrote it down in this book, and look, it's got a fancy letterhead. So now you've got to do that. And we go along with it because we believe what's in the book's real. It's not. So it all comes down to the individual, understanding who and what you are. Each one of us is a unique expression of creation. Each one of us. We are totally unique in our perspective of creation. And that's what makes you, you. That's what makes me, me. And so we're all in this together. We're all exactly the same. We've just got a completely different and a completely unique perspective of what reality is. And once we can understand that and understand that we're all in the same boat and this whole thing only exists on paper, well, there's our way out. You know, right there. So, you know, everything we've got here, everything we face, it's a product of human imagination, essentially. We made the whole thing up. You know, for something to happen, for some idea to be there, for some law to exist, somebody had to make it up. It was an imaginary thing. Right. And now it's brought into reality. We just got to imagine a new future, imagine things differently. And I think it really all comes down to respect. You know, because this whole system that we've got so many things that are put there to teach us not to respect each other and not to respect ourselves. Because we're given like parameters that we can never achieve. They're fictional. You've got to be like this and you've got to work within these parameters and you've got to function in this way in order to be successful, in inverted commas. But you'll always be different because you've got your social division, your racial division, your religious division, every division you can think of to make you different. You know, we've got all of this stuff put there and we're given these parameters we can never achieve. And so we don't respect ourselves, we don't respect each other, and we judge each other by our financial status or by our social status. You know, it's a joke, it's a matrix.
Right. And it definitely is a matrix, and I feel it's a cleverly constructed matrix because the powers that be, I always say we are the powers that be, but at the same time, they know a lot about the subconscious mind, and they know they are co-creators, so they make you worship them. And a lot of people,
well, they do,
right?
They do. They make us worship them, but they all this whole celebrity thing, because they give you unrealistic parameters to measure yourselves up to, and then they give you these celebrities in inverted commas to aspire to, you know. And it's a joke. It's a matrix. It's completely a matrix. So, you know, getting through that's the hard part with people. But the thing is that, you know, we are all in this together. That's the important thing for people to understand. Nobody has any more power than you, and nobody has any less power than you. And the reason you can resonate with what I say on the shows, and you say that it sounds like that it's you speaking through me, is because everything that I'm saying here is common sense. Really, we know this. It's part of our genetic makeup. We were free. We always were free. But they've brought this system in to attempt to control us. And the more they try, well, we're just too creative for that. The more we wake up. That's the thing. That's why you can listen to what I say and you can go, wow, it's like I'm speaking, because it's there in the field. It's just common sense. It's just your memory. I'm not even telling you things you don't already know. I'm just helping you remember that which you already know, because these are inherent traditional human values. That's all I really talk about on this show. Really, when you listen to everything that I'm saying, it's just common sense. It's what you are as a human being. It's what everybody is. We've forgotten that. We've been taught that we need the state to look after us. We can't look after ourselves. We can't be responsible for ourselves. We need the state. We need everything. The government will take care of us. And really it's doing exactly the opposite.
Right.
It's only necessary because we believe it's necessary. It's only necessary to fix up all the problems that it creates for us.
Right. And what I love about your own podcast is that you keep going, and it's definitely keep going, because I feel that we have to all drive it home, and just to see that the reality we live in is a collective belief system. Therefore, it doesn't matter if you know. If the rest of the population don't know, then we're all going to suffer, because we're all connected.
Well, we are all connected. I mean, this is why you've got stuff like the natural medicines and the plant medicines and the entheogens, ayahuasca, things like this. You've got the shaman coming out around the world now, because they know that if this white culture, this Western culture keeps going, it's going to destroy all biological life on the planet. We're going to take everybody down with us. And so they're bringing that out of necessity. You've got to let people know what they're really connected to, and you've got to keep going. I mean, I've been virtually saying the same thing on my radio show. Virtually every radio show that I've done, and I've done hundreds in the last 6 years, virtually every one of them has been the same radio show from a different perspective. Because really that is the message. The message is for everybody out there to know who and what they are. Know that the people that are inflicting all the damage upon this planet are simply public trustees. If there's corporations that are raping the planet and raping the environment, they're doing so because of legislation that's been put in place by government. Well, who's government? They're just people. They're public trustees that we employ to manage our infrastructure for us. And they're abusing their power, and they're using that power to steal everything they can from us and to destroy the planet so they can live the high life. They don't care what happens after they die. They'll just do what they want and destroy the planet while they're here, because that's what they do. They don't care. And they've tricked us into just going along with it. We believe this paper-based reality is real, but it's not. What's real is life. What's real is people. And this is the time in human history that we remember this. We wake up to this. And that's what all this is about. And that's what I've tried to bring people on the shows. And I've said this same thing for 6 years, and I will absolutely keep going, because once you know this, well, what choice do you have? You have to keep going. The other choice is to let the world fall into ruin, and we can't do that.
And we're definitely seeing more people come out of their shell, because it takes a lot of courage. And when we realize that our voice, just one voice, can send ripples throughout the ocean, then people start really speaking their mind, and that's when change can happen. When we just talk about the media, the television, and even Hollywood films, what do you feel the purpose of entertainment is? Because a lot of us, we might see a film and there might be a good moral to that story, but then on the flip side, we might see how it all ties in to a greater agenda.
Well, films are very clever programming, and they're multifunctional. I mean, sometimes there is a good moral to the story. Sometimes there's a lot of predictive programming in there as well. There's a lot of things that are put in there to help you accept the surveillance state. Really, when I look at a film, I'll look at the story of the film, the moral message of the film, but I'll also look at what's going on in the background, the subtext. What's the technology that they're using? all this sort of stuff. What are the moral codes of the people there at the time in the film? You know, all this sort of stuff, because they're programming you to accept certain things as well. But films also perform a very clever emotional function, because we see this whole control grid. We see these controllers. We look at the world. We get very, very frustrated. Our inability. We're just a little person. I'm just one person. What can I do to save the world? There's nothing that I can do. Oh, poor me, you know. So we get very, very frustrated. And we can go to a movie, go to watch a Superman movie or whatever, you know, and suddenly there's this one crusader standing against the system. And we go through this entire emotional roller coaster ride whereby we're there and we project ourselves into the movie. We become Superman. We're fighting the battle with him. And he defeats all the bad guys for us. And we go through that whole emotional journey. And we walk out of the cinema at the end of the film and we've released all of that built-up tension that we had for the system. Because the bad guys were defeated in those 2 hours that we were sitting there eating that popcorn, you know. And we've gone through that journey ourselves and we feel satisfied in ourselves. And so we don't strike out against the system. We go back and we go back to work and we do the things the next day and we go and talk about it with our friends. It kind of relieves that pent-up emotion. See, if you can think of the emotional baggage of humankind like a balloon that's always rising, you've got to let the pressure off now and then so it doesn't explode. And that's what they do. They do this with ball games, they do it with entertainment, they do it with pop entertainment, with movies, all of this sort of stuff, because we always project ourselves into these things. And that's a very, very important function of movies. That's why they're put there. Otherwise, society would probably have exploded by now if we didn't have these little releases for our pent-up tension.
Sports as well.
Game. Sports are very much like this. And sports also satisfy our whole tribal instinct because we get to belong to a certain colour or a certain creed or a certain belief. You know, I'm with these guys. They got the yellow uniform. We believe this and this is the way we go. And we beat you guys with the blue uniform, you know. So it's a whole tribal thing as well. So it's like little pressure valves that they put on society to keep us locked in there. They've got to put these pressure valves there. Otherwise, we would probably have eaten each other by now.
And your most recent podcast, Stuff You Need to Know About, phenomenal. How can we help others without judgment? Because for me, it seems sometimes you're living in two worlds. And there's the world that your internal reality, but also as you leave your house, you realize that not everyone is vibrating on a similar frequency as yours. So you can't just go in with all of this information. You have to meet them at their level. So if you have certain friends or family who are just not interested in this information or who just don't understand it, how can we sort of talk to them about this? Or do we just avoid it completely?
What you do is you be wonderful. You be all that you can be. Because you have the information, you know how reality works, you know what's going on, you can see through the matrix. More than that. So rather than looking at them and thinking, oh, you poor thing, I have to wake you up, if you are just fantastic and just wonderful and you lead by example and you are an absolute pleasure to be around and they think, wow, what a vibrant man this man is. How can I emulate this? How can I be like this? This guy's life is just incredible. Every time I see him, he's just so happy. Every time he interacts with me, I walk away with something. He gives me things. He's an incredible pleasure to be around. I want to be like this man. How come you're so happy, Ralph? Well, it's because I just know how reality works. Well, what do you mean you know that? Well, and then you start giving them little bits. You give them a little half a glass of information. And then they come back and they start telling you things and you give them a little bit more. But people who are completely asleep, you can't just go and say, oh, you got to wake up, the government's corrupt, they're going to, depopulation, chemtrail. They just go, oh my God, this man's psychotic. I don't want to be like him. Even if he's right, I don't want to know. Don't want to know he's paranoid. My life was great before I talked to this guy. So you're doing it the wrong way. But if you're an absolute pleasure to be around, and why wouldn't you be? Because if you know how reality works, why wouldn't you be an absolutely wonderful person to be around? Because of course you would. You know how reality works, and so you're naturally happy. I am. That's the way I am all the time. And people want to emulate that. They like to be around me because they have a great time when they're around me. I'm just never in a state of stress. And so they have a great time. And then they want to know why I'm so happy all the time. And so I give them little bits of information. And then they wake up on their own because truth is realized. You can't tell anybody the truth. They have to realize it for themselves. And the best way for you to help them realize that is to lead by example in all that you do. And if they're too asleep to have the information, then just be all that you can be. Be fantastic. And they will want to be fantastic too.
That's so true. And just moving on, when we talk of, I say the only two things we're working for is food and accommodation. And money has become, for so many, the greatest incentive to get up every morning. So when we talk of just imagining a world without money, for a lot of people is very difficult. But for what when I'm just reflecting, I realize how clever this game is set up. Because it's got everyone on the treadmill. That's the only reason many people are going into work. That's the only reason many people are studying in these schools, so they can make money. But the word money emanates from talenta, which means skills. So what's actually happened is that they've equated your own talents and they've put a price on it. So from your own view, is money a problem? Or is money just a tool?
Oh, mate, if you heard my last show, didn't you? You heard the
Right,
last one. Like,
right.
Commerce is the biggest problem that we've ever faced as a species. Like the whole system of commerce, the fact that money exists, the fact that people actually believe you need this stuff to survive. And I believe money, it's almost like a sixth sense that's been imposed over our senses. It's like we don't think about breathing, we don't think about seeing, we don't think about money, or we think about the fact that we don't have it, but our use of it, we just use it the way we use our lungs to breathe and the way we use our eyes to see. We don't think about it. It's just been superimposed over our reality. And it's not real. It's just an idea. It's there to create scarcity. You know, there's a whole field of vegetables there growing right outside your door. And you're starving and the vegetables are there, but you can't go and eat them because you don't have any paper to go and give the guy who grew the vegetable. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? You don't have any money to have the food.
Right.
You know, all the problems that we face, all the starving millions, you know, they're starving because we can't afford to feed them. But the food's right there and you can't eat money. It's ridiculous. It's this whole thing that's been superimposed over reality. And it's based on Kabbalistic principles, I believe. This is a lot of what the Kabbalah is about. It's this mathematical formula that's been used. And once you've imposed a system of commerce over the mind of an individual, they find it very, very difficult to think of life without commerce. And people say money is the root of all evil. And they go, oh, well, the saying is actually the love of money is the root of all evil. No, it's money itself. Money itself shouldn't exist. It isn't the love of money. We don't need money. Money is there to provide scarcity. Money is there in order to steal the earth, the wealth of the earth. Every problem that we face, every environmental catastrophe, every nuclear disaster, every war, every tyrant, every state of homelessness, every state of starvation, every real problem that we face is a result of commerce. A whole lot is a result of money.
Right. And that is so true, because many of us, we base our self-worth with money. And once you begin to free your mind, you realize the game for what it is. But just looking at the acceleration of consciousness on the planet, the rise of machine, the rise of technology, and you're seeing here in London, I'm seeing everyone is on their iPad, on their iPhone, and I feel technology is amazing because it's connecting us. However, what's happened is there's been a breakdown in communication. And I was talking to a great friend and we were saying how it's not that people don't want to communicate, it's that we don't know how.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're able to communicate with each other across the planet the way you and I are talking to each other now, but we've had a basic breakdown in life skills.
Right.
Interpersonal communication. It's a lot easier for someone to sit across the room from someone else and text them on their iPod than it is to actually have eye contact with them. And a lot of it as well with people, they remake themselves online into something that they're really not. And then they have to meet the person and they think, well, hang on, I might not be dressed the right way. Or, they judge themselves even more than what they would have normally. See, because we live in an internet relationship with people where it's a very, very non-judgmental relationship. Doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what race you are, what color you are, what you're wearing, or whether you're fat or whether you're skinny or whatever. It doesn't matter because people don't normally look at each other. It's just a voice. It's just text chat or whatever. And because they've grown very comfortable in that environment, when they actually meet someone, they are even more self-conscious than they would have been otherwise because they're actually there in the real world. And wow, I may not be exactly the way I portrayed myself online. And so it's created a real breakdown in life skill. And so this is all leading towards transhumanism. This is what they've done it all for, I believe. I mean, there's certain conscious people that have used the internet to our advantage and to get the message out to people. But still the vast majority of people don't. Still the vast majority of people use it because then they're not able to communicate in the real world. You'll find a lot of people that really excelled online and really sort of probably lack in a lot of life skills in the first place anyway, or who you would term the nerdy people.
Right.
And suddenly they've excelled online. They become the leaders online. And then, so you know what I'm saying? So these are real lacking in life skill people. So, and it all leads towards a transhumanist agenda. You can see how society is being molded, how the kind of humans we want in inverted commas are being molded. And it's all leading towards a transhumanist agenda. The transhumanist agenda is always, it's all part of Agenda 21 and the whole control grid. I mean, it all ties together.
And it's coming, and that's what I love about your podcast is that you're making people aware. And when we talk of the way out, being free is your birthright, what are the solutions for humanity and how do we become free again? Because whenever I listen to you, it's just full of solutions, but people will still be asking for solutions. Because
that's the thing. They want the form to fill out. They say, Max, you talk about all this stuff, but what's the solution? Why haven't you started a website that I can go and sign up to that suddenly is going to make us all free? Where's the form to fill out? Where's the, how do I do it? How can you free me? How can you teach me to be self-enlightened? And I go, well, it's self-enlightenment, I can't really teach you that one, and I can't tell you what freedom is for you. Only you can do that because freedom for you is you. And until you know that, well, what can I do? Until you know who and what you are and know that all the people you're dealing with are just people, and that it's very difficult for you to stand up by yourself against these people and against this system. But if you can respect yourself enough to truly respect yourself, if you can respect yourself enough to look at the person next door to you and not see them as being black or white or African or Christian or Muslim or Chinese or anything,
Yes.
but just see them as another frequency of consciousness and respect them for the individual experience and the unique experience of creation that they are, the same as the way you would wish to be respected. Once you can do that with your neighbors, then the whole community can stand up together and say, hey, you people that are doing this, you're just people and we don't employ you to do this. So we're going in a different direction now.
Right.
But it all comes down to that individual respect. And people say, what is the solution, Max? Well, the solution is for you to know who and what you are enough to actually respect yourself. Because if you don't respect the people around you, then guess what? You haven't reached it yet. You don't respect yourself enough yet.
Right.
So that's where the secret is. It's in your heart, everybody. And I can't provide you with the solution. Only you can do that.
Right. And
that's been the message in all of my shows for the last 6 years. And people still ask me, what's the solution, Max?
Right. It comes with taking what I found, 100% responsibility, to stop blaming, stop seeing yourself as a victim. A lot of people complain about so-called forces, not realizing they are the force. And even when you have all of these wars, I always tell people, what about the soldiers? They have to become aware of what they're doing. See? And when we talk of just breaking free, what does it take to stop caring what other people think? Because when I hear you talk, it seems like you've risen past that, and that's why you're able just to create such a massive wave. And for a lot of us on the planet, I feel that's the biggest hurdle to get over. Even just to talk on the internet requires a lot of courage, because you're going to get your trolls, you're going to get people who are making stories up about you, and it can be very challenging just to put yourself out there.
Well, it can. I mean, I get that. I get a lot of people attacking me, and I do care what people think to a certain degree, because if they're attacking me and they're calling me out as a shill, or they're calling me out as a government agent, or whatever they do, I think, what am I doing wrong? Why don't you get it? Why are you so locked into that? Why are you locked into that reality that you would come and attack me? You've never met me. If you listen to what I say, if there's fault in it, will show me. I'm open to suggestions. So I care in as much as I'm concerned as to why they would think that. I don't care really about what they think about me. But that's just part of the territory. I mean, there's going to be people out there that attack you. Sometimes it does affect me. I mean, I'm not bulletproof. It does concern me sometimes. But usually because I'm confused as to why they don't get it. I'm confused and more concerned for them than I am for me. That's the thing, So,
right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, people will always attack you for what you do, and people will always not get it. But I think the more, and something that I've really seen lately is that the alternate research community is really being attacked a lot lately. There's a lot of people trying to create a lot of division, and I think this is a positive sign in many ways, because it shows that we're making a difference. It shows that there's a real attempt to get out there and undermine the alternate research community. And that just makes me want to push harder and go harder and get more and more outspoken in what I do. And I really don't pull any punches in what I do at all. I call a spade a spade. I think that's why I've been so successful, is because I do call a spade a spade. I don't call it a shovel. And I am right on the point, and I'm just speaking common sense and stuff that everybody knows.
Right. Alan Moore, who wrote The Watchmen, he talked of how the artist has the most power in the world, because they can show you the world beyond this one. And I've heard you talk about the role of the artist. When we talk of the way out, I feel that it's the artist who can really help even more to speed up and change the world for the better. And when I look at the singers, the so-called celebrities, I feel a lot of them, they have sold out. But the true artists, I definitely feel, hold tremendous power.
Well, they do, and art does speak very much to people. And there's a lot of art as well, even in Hollywood movies, even with a lot of the subtext. There's a lot of very positive messages in a lot of these things. There really is. And art is something that we're very much led away from. And really, you are an artistic expression of creation. That's what you are. Your life is your art. What you do with your time is your art, your expression of creation. And what you create with the time that's given to you is your art, the art of your life. This is so much what we've been led away from. We've been trained to believe that we are what we do. Who are you, Ralph? Oh, I'm a broadcaster. No, that's what you do. Who are you?
Right. That's so true.
I am a unique expression of creation that I call Ralph. This is what I call myself.
I say I am movement.
Yeah, exactly. So people are like that. It's who are you? Who are you, John? Well, I'm a plumber. No, that's what you do. But who are you? Who is John? So. That's what we've been led away from. It's the art of your life, the expression of your life, the thing that is you, the unique expression of creation, and what you do with that time. That is your art, and that's what we've been led away from. And it's so important for people to get that back and to realize that You know, we often judge ourselves as poorly because of our uniqueness. This is what I talked about on the last radio show that you mentioned earlier, that show that I did called Stuff You Need to Know. Because what you need to know is your uniqueness is who you are. It is perfect, and it is something that you should not see as being detrimental to yourself. Because we often do this. We're trained to often think that I'm pretty cool and I'm great, and we respect our uniqueness, but then we judge ourselves poorly because we're different to everybody else. So it's a reverse dichotomy going on here. That uniqueness is who you are, and how you are able to express yourself to the best of your ability and to the best of your potential, and what sort of a positive impact you are able to have on creation. This is so important for you to understand and for you to express in your life. And this is what we've been led away from.
Right.
And once people find that and find that uniqueness and find out that their life is in fact an artistic statement, I believe that's where a lot of the solution lies, because there's the solution. We can create anything we want, and that's why they'll never lock us down, because that's really who we are. We are all artistic expressions of creation. We are so creative, and whatever they try to do, we just keep moving the goalposts because we're too creative for that. You know, they'll never get to really lock humankind down. That's why they have to move towards transhumanism and try to do it through nanotechnology and electromagnetism, because they can never do it through conscious manipulation. We just won't be fooled. Not that easily.
Not that easily. Definitely. I used to work in a school, a mainstream school, so I saw firsthand how the indoctrination centers work. And it's just amazing how they get us when we're so young, 4 years old, and that's it. And just seeing how powerful education is, just to help remind us of our power, but how it's been used to mind control so many of us, and many of us, we're still recovering just from that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. I mean, I got kicked out of all the high schools that I went to. I went to 4 different high schools. I got kicked out of all of them because I used to argue with my teachers too much. And then I got a job as a musician and lived on the outside of society. I left like halfway through in the 3rd year of high school. I was gone. I left and started playing guitar and doing that. And people say to me, Max, you're so educated, you're so articulate, you know all this stuff. Where would you educate it? And I go, well, I wasn't. They never got a hold of me. That's how come I know all this stuff, you know.
Right.
But that's what it's all about. It's there to train you to believe that you need the system to exist, and to give you certain parameters to measure yourself up to, and to train you to be a good little cog in the big machine. But many of us see through it, and we realize that it's really not the way at all.
And it separates us, because if you have a degree, just a Bachelor of Arts, then the person with the master's looks down on you. And now the person with the PhD, and then you have the professor. And it's just, it also mirrors even the classes. You know, if you're lower class, middle class, higher class, what car do you drive, what house what clothes are you wearing? And it's just amazing how the more you begin to reawaken, come out of that amnesia, you really begin to find your power, find your bearing once again.
Oh yeah, and the whole grading system, the Western system of grading is insidious. It really is. The way it's always, it's climbing up rungs on the ladder. You know, you're an A-class person or a B-class person or a D-class person. You know, it's really insidious. I was speaking to someone on a radio show a couple of weeks ago where I said the grading system would be more apt to be looked at as building rungs in a bridge. You know, so you're building a new place to step on your new path in life. You know, but we're in the Western system, it's a hierarchical grading system. And, you know, the whole concept of having exams and being graded, this is all about destroying creative potential and destroying creative input. It's about removing your uniqueness from yourself, removing your potentiality from yourself, molding you to be a good little cog in the big machine, training you to be a clone. You've got to think of it like everybody else. If you think like everybody else, you are an A-grade person. Right. If you think independently, you are a D-grade person. Right. So, you know, if you're a D-grade person, we'll laugh at you, and we will be ostracized by your peers, and you won't be invited to the right parties. So this is the way it works.
Definitely. And what I've found is that whatever you fight, you give power to, and resistance makes stronger. And it's not about fighting the system. It's just about creating your own world, essentially. And
well, it's about disconnecting from it.
Right.
Disconnecting from it. You can't fight it. People say, Max, we want you to lead us. I can't lead you. What am I going to fight a system? I've just finished telling you the system only exists on paper. It's a matrix. It's a meme. It's just an idea. If I'm fighting it, I'm fighting a cloud. I'm fighting that which does not
You're
exist.
fighting the invisible.
Isn't that insanity?
Definitely.
You know, you're fighting that which does not exist. This is insanity. It's an invisible monster. The only time I need to stand up against the system is if someone attempts to inflict itself upon me using the system. If a police officer or a lawyer or a judge or somebody comes and attempts to inflict the system upon me, I can, through a series of logical questions and logical statements and requests for proof of claim, prove to these people that the system is fiction, and then they'll let me go. And that's the way I operate.
Right. And I recently just saw your outtakes with Ben Stewart from Transformation, and it was great just to see both of you in nature discussing the herbs, the plants, the natural ways we can heal ourselves. And I say nature is home. And how do we reconnect back to nature when we have been disconnected for so long?
Well, that's the hard part, brother. That really is, especially in a city environment in London. It's very, very difficult, you know. Just get out there and get your hands in the dirt's a good thing. I mean, even just growing vegetables is a good thing. If you're living in a city environment, if you grow like carrots in your yard, and the person next door grows lettuces in theirs, and the person next door to them grows potatoes, and you all swap, this sort of stuff. I mean, just even if you're growing them in window boxes or pot plants or something, just get involved. Get back into growing your own food. It's a really good feeling, and it tastes so much better. So, you know, that's what I recommend. It's a very difficult thing to do, though, in a city environment. But returning to what we were talking about before, this is why the shamans are coming out around the planet. They're trying to reconnect people to nature because they really see the danger of how Western civilization is going and how Western civilization hasn't really been content to stay within the confines of its cities. It's tried to infect the rest of the world with its cancer, and it really is a cancer. And it's a disconnection from nature. That's what Western civilization is. And it's very, very important that we do reconnect. But again, I think it's got to happen. And the more we disconnect from it, the more we are finding that we need to reconnect to it. And eventually this system, if it's left to go of its own accord, if it's left to go in the direction it's going, eventually it will implode. It can't do anything else. And it might be catastrophic if it does. But there will be remnants that survive, and nature will survive. The planet's not going anywhere. We are. That's the thing to pay attention to.
Right.
It's
and
just,
we can even see how technology...
We have a choice, though.
Right. We can see how technology, it seems like it's separating us from nature, because the internet is fantastic, but at the same time, many of us, we're sitting in front of these computer screens for maybe 2-3 hours, or maybe even more every day. You know, what are the effects of this? We already see the rise of myopia. Is it healthy? That's what I'm asking myself. Is it healthy just to sit in front of a computer for even an hour at a time?
Well, of course it's not. It's much, much more preferred to be outside in nature, but at the moment it serves a purpose for
Definitely
those of us that are doing the right thing. I mean, I spend a lot of time, you know, days on end in front of the computer because it's simply what I do. But I do what I do because I think it needs to be done. I'm reaching a lot of people, and that, to me, it's worth it. I mean, I've already lived a very, very full life. I've been around the world. I've travelled. I've done everything I really wanted to do, and I've done only what I wanted to do in my life. I've never had a normal job. I've always lived on the outside of society, and I've been myself my whole life. So in many ways, I've had a charmed life. And when I see the state of the world at the moment, I think that I owe it to the world to do what I do now. I need to give something back. And
it's a great tool. It's a great tool that can be used.
Well, it is.
And it's all about how you use it.
Well, it is. It is like everything, you know. It's all about how we use it. It's the same with the time that's given to you. It's a great tool. It's about how you use it. And
Right,
too many people don't use it in the right way. Too many people use it as an entertainment experience, and that's
right,
all very well. You've got to be happy, but pay attention to what's going on around us, and you can leave a legacy behind. You can leave your mark, and you can attempt to make a better world, or at least not allow a bad world to be created in your name.
right,
So
right.
yeah, that's what I try to do.
I interviewed Thomas Sheridan about 2 years ago, who wrote The Labyrinth of the Psychopath. And when we look at the people who are in control of the lunatic asylum, a lot of us, we might say they need to be removed. And what we were discussing was they are never going to be removed because, in fact, these psychopaths actually help propel humanity to a greater state of awareness, because without them, humanity would not evolve. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes and no. Yes and no. They do help propel us to a greater state of awareness, but I don't think they should be in control, which is what they are at the
Right,
moment.
right,
Because with them in control, they're very devious, and there's a lot more of humanity should be in a greater state of awareness than what is currently the case. And I would suggest that this is because the psychopaths are in control. This is what a lot of the shaman used to do. They used to remove the psychopaths and make sure that they never got in positions of control. And this is why, again, a lot of the shamans are coming out and helping us. But yeah, they do help us in many ways. I mean, that's probably why they exist. 1 to 3% of the population are always born psychopaths. And I would suggest that is the case simply because they do propel us to greater depths of understanding. But unfortunately, things have got out of balance, and now psychopaths have maneuvered themselves into positions where they are currently in control of this planet. And so they have created a psychopathic political and social system which is basically eliminating everybody in the planet who is not a psychopath and who is not a sociopath. And really, when you look at the financial system and the state of our world today, in order to be a successful business person, business itself is sociopathic. The need to profit from people, the need to put commerce over the human experience, and the need to put profits before people. This is sociopathic in itself. And I would say that this has been put in place, and this whole monetary system has been put in place. The whole system of commerce exists simply because psychopaths maneuver themselves in positions of power. And this was through a loss of shamanism.
right.
So yeah, there is a point to them, but not the way it's gone. I think we need to do something about this situation. Absolutely.
Right. And it's so inspiring just to see more people embrace nature. And for me, when I'm in nature, I realize there is no fear in nature. And on the planet right now, so many of us, we have become addicted to fear, bad news. And I feel that's one of the biggest things holding us back. It's how do we eradicate this fear that we're so addicted to?
Well, that's a lot of what the truth, so-called truth in inverted commas movement is all about as well. It's fear porn, a lot of it.
Right.
They're
right.
addicted to fear. Now, I don't see any of it as anything to fear. I mean, we're in a bad way, but it's an opportunity. It's nothing to fear. I have no fear of this system at all because I'm infinite consciousness inhabiting this vessel, this body that was given to me for the experience. I have no fear of these people. I have no fear of anything they can do to me. They can't hurt me.
Right.
They may hurt the body, but they can't hurt me. I have no fear of death. I mean, why would I fear death? Death's the only thing that's actually inevitable. It's the only thing in my life that's absolutely 100% guaranteed to happen. I'm going to die.
Right.
And that happens to everybody. Too bad if you're not going to accept that, but that's a fact of life, folks.
Right.
So why on earth would I go through life in fear of the one thing that is absolutely inevitable? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's something that's really a product of Western society. Right. It absolutely is. You don't find any animals that are in fear
and maybe
of death.
we're afraid of that because we're afraid to live.
Exactly. So if I was in fear of death, I wouldn't do what I do. There's no way I would be speaking out. I'd be sitting there cowering and hiding, going, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. But I just don't do that. I mean, that's just not who I am. I'm here to rock the boat. I mean, they can't hurt me.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, we are. There's this incredible fear, and a lot of people are addicted to it because they don't want to be empowered. They don't want to be free. A lot of the truth movement, they don't want to be free. They've got a vested interest in the fight. They make money out of the fight.
Right.
They like the fight. The fight is their life.
It's the
They found
entertainment.
out this system's corrupt, and it gives them something to
Yes.
shake their fist at and scream at, and it's the purpose of their whole life. They wouldn't know what to do with freedom, because freedom, as you mentioned earlier, is 100% responsibility. Self-responsibility, being responsible 100% for you, everything you say and do. That is what freedom is, and many people simply aren't ready for it. But,
Right.
we do what we can. We do what we can. We lead by example in all that we do. And even if you don't want to be free, well, we can have a system that is better and more fair than the one that we've got. A system whereby people that live within it, even if they're not free, they're still free to demonstrate the art and experience the art of their life. Free to create all that they can and free to be all that they can. We can do that at least, even if it isn't free, even if we still perform commerce. We can still do it in such a way that frees mankind and leads us back to what we could be. We can still find a way to be all that we could be. And all this system does is exactly the opposite. Find ways of limiting us from being anything that we could
Right.
possibly be.
And
locking
it
us
goes
within
back
a
to that.
tiny-
Right. It goes back to people always sometimes ask me and a lot of other people I know, what are you doing? What do you do? And it's like we're always caught up in this doing instead of being. And what I've come to see that it's all BS, belief systems. And it's amazing how this game has been set up, because whatever you believe creates your reality. And when we talk of religion and the role that has played, because many of us, even who are involved in the process of becoming free, we still might be under the authority of some God being, not realizing that we are made from the same fabric as the universe.
Well, we are, and I would think of myself as a thought in the mind of God.
Right.
If God exists, which I believe God does exist, but not in a religious perspective. I believe all is made of energy, and the energy itself is conscious, and that is the mind of God, and God is simply the word that we give it, for want of a better word. But we are all made up of conscious creative energy. Every single thing in creation, it's all connected, everything. But you and I are a completely unique frequency of that creation. We are, each of us, a thought in the mind of whatever you want to call it. And it's about what we do at that time. Too many people are caught up in religious dogma and religious expectation, and they have a stake in the outcome of their life. They think that if they do this, then it's going to be better for them. I believe that if I improve reality by my presence in it, then it's going to be better for creation. Because I believe my role here is service to creation, because I'm part of creation. I'm connected to all that is. And if I can leave a legacy behind that will help creation evolve further on its path towards positivity, then I believe I've done the right thing. There's a purpose to my life.
Right.
But too many people have a stake in the outcome in their actions. Too many people, they go to church because they're scared they'll go to hell if they don't. They have a stake in the outcome. So they're going to church for selfish reasons. They're doing worshipping God and worshipping the Bible or worshipping Allah or whoever for selfish reasons, because they
Right.
believe it will be better for them. They have a stake in the outcome. I don't have a stake in the outcome of anything. I'm just here to serve creation. That's my purpose. And that I believe is the purpose of everybody. My life just works because that's the way I operate. That's the perspective that I think from. And because I don't have the stake in the outcome of anything, I'm never disappointed. I'm always led where I need to be, and everything always unfolds perfectly the way it should for me.
Right.
And that's just the way I live my life. And I think that there's a great lesson in that for a lot of people if they would simply open themselves up to it. There's a great quote that I often use that says that if you cast yourself to the wind, you can ride it. And that's the way I
Excellent.
live
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And I talk of feeling alive, and once you feel alive, everything makes sense. And the more you are limited, everything is a massive confusion for you in your mind. And it's just amazing just to see so many people around the world find their true power once again, which is within. Who has been your biggest inspiration, or maybe it's a couple of people, or yeah, who inspires you on the journey?
Oh, look, probably people that you wouldn't expect at all. One of the biggest inspirations in my life was Frank Zappa, to be honest.
Right.
And because Frank thought completely outside of the box. And another one was Todd Rundgren, and Todd's still alive, but his music was very inspirational for me. Todd Rundgren and Frank Zappa, I would say, would be the biggest influences in my spiritual path, and that is probably right out there for a lot of people. But when I heard those guys, it all made sense to me. And
right.
Yeah, so that was a big one for me. I'm not going to go through any philosophers or anything like that next year, any of that. No, Frank Zappa did it all for me, brother.
Well, that's fantastic, because I always feel sometimes the truth can be even more powerful indirectly. And I feel that's why
absolutely.
Musicians are so powerful, because they don't tell you, they show you.
Yeah, it's in the delivery. And
in the delivery, right.
The songs. The delivery and the songs from those two gentlemen really made a huge difference in my life.
Right. And just seeing how, when we talk of just coming out of the sleep, a lot of us, we're waiting for fireworks. Once we are beginning to awaken, and then you realize how deep the rabbit hole goes. And even the people that we feel are in power are nothing more than puppets on a string. And then you realize that this even goes into other realms. I saw David Icke in Wembley, and it was fantastic just to see so many people in one place. And you realize that it goes so much deeper than we can even comprehend.
Well, it does. And as I was talking about before, when you look at the commercial system being based in the Kabbalah, it's an energetic life form on its own. The matrix, the system itself, is an energetic meme on its own. And it receives its energy from our participation in the meme. And it's multi-dimensional, the problem that we face. It's a huge spiritual dilemma that we are in. And it's got to come back to each individual. That's why it comes back to each individual. That's why there is no paper you can fill out, why there is no one to ultimately point the finger at. It's up to us. It's up to each individual to rediscover ourselves. And what I say is to step into the power of your flesh, to understand that you are a unique expression of creation, and to live the art of your life. And that might sound very esoteric to people, but once you get it, you go, it's so obvious. It's really so obvious. Once you understand who and what you are, understand what reality is, and understand how to be you, there's the solution. And it's hard to explain in English, because there's been so many words removed from the English language to explain these type of spiritual understandings to people. I often use the word Dharma to explain the limitation of the English language. The word Dharma, you could write a whole book on Dharma, being, your Dharma being your perfect part in the cosmic machine, and how you got to follow the 4 rules of Dharma, do the right thing in the right way at the right time for the right reason, all this stuff. It's a whole understanding. You could give lessons on Dharma, but if I'm speaking Hindi, all I have to do is say Dharma, and people know exactly what I mean. We don't have words like that in English. And for I to say to someone, all you have to do is understand you and be you, they go, well, what do you mean? I don't know how else to explain it. I know what I mean inside, and I live it, and I do it myself. Right. But I don't know how to explain it to you, because it's a knowing.
Right.
It's a knowing. It's not even a belief. You don't have to believe that you've got this power. You know that you've got the power. If you know it, you don't have to try to believe it. people say, I try to believe it. Why can't I do it? It's because you're trying to believe it. If you don't know it, why would you try to believe it?
Right.
Why would you try to believe something you don't know? You're cancelling it out. This is a whole, it's ridiculous. It's reverse, you're cancelling yourself out just by saying that. You're trying to believe something. Why would you try to believe it if you already know it? If you already knew it, you wouldn't try to believe it.
Definitely.
So know it, because it's there. So how do you explain this to people? It's very, very difficult in English. And I think this is why English has been promoted so much out through the world, because it's a very mechanical language that you can't convey spiritual understandings to people in.
Well, from my own knowing, English is an encoded language, and it was created by magicians. In fact, the word grammar comes from the word grimoire, which means a book of spells. So,
well, exactly. That's the first thing they teach you when you go to school, is they teach you to spell.
To spell, right? Right.
You're casting spells. I've done whole shows about it.
Right. And I heard your shows on law as well, because sometimes they confuse us with the legalese, the terms they use in court. We don't even know what they're talking about, because it's all part of to confuse people with the language. Absolutely. Right. Well, I have 5 quick questions, and please I'll just say something and just finish it. True freedom comes when
you know who you are.
Okay. The world is heading to a place where
this is a tricky one. We're on a knife edge. The world is heading to a place where you want it to be.
Right.
How's that one?
That's great. Most of people's misery comes from
the inability to understand themselves and to know themselves.
The life we are meant to live is
our art.
And school should be a place where
people learn, which is definitely not what they do at the moment.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Max, for taking time out of your busy schedule. And this has been an incredible show. And what you're doing is definitely sending ripples throughout the cosmos. And I feel it's not going in vain. And you've definitely left your mark and are continuing to do so. So please continue to do what you do.
Well, I hope so.
Right. Well, we don't have to hope either.
Yeah, well, I hope you do too, brother. I think that people will get the message. I think this is an incredibly important time. It's a pivotal time, and it's a real honour to be here. It really is, and I think we will make a difference, and we're going to go in the direction that we should go, whatever that direction will be.
Right. Well, thank you so much for diving, and thank you to everyone else out there in the Infinite Waters community. Find more of Max's work at www.thecrowhouse.com. Go to his YouTube page, be blown away, The Crow House. And remember, walk in strength. We're here, Infinite Waters, diving deep once again. Stay well, stay healthy. Peace.